Now we'll hear from Chris Friesen, Principal at Woodstock Collegiate Institute, with the Thames Valley District School Board in London, Ontario.
Thank you, Marilyn, for that introduction. I am pleased to have the opportunity to share with everyone who's listening about the work that Woodstock Collegiate has done in conjunction with the Tell Them For Me survey, and in particular, how we have found that it has benefited our efforts on helping our students deal with mental health issues. So a little bit of an introduction between the partnership between our school and the Tell Them For Me survey. Beginning in the fall of 2011, our school began to focus primarily and almost exclusively on student engagement. And our purpose was to systematically get to know each student as deeply as possible. And just to clarify, I'm sure every school out there would say that they all attempt to get to know their students as deeply as possible. But from having been in many schools now into my 25th year this is the first time I've been in a school where our primary goal, why we do what we do, is first and foremost based on how do we get to know students better. And I can tell you that now more than 3 years into that, it is different. Like anything else is different when you decide to focus on one thing and make that your priority and what it is that drives the work you do. So we started working through this in the fall of 2011, and I quickly realized staff were on board. They saw the value of getting to know students better because it just made sense to them. It was a goal that spoke to them, spoke to why I think they became teachers in the first place. But it left us with a bit of a problem in terms of how do we measure? How do we know if we're actually making progress with getting to know students better? How do we know if we're engaging them better? How do we know if they feel more secure, that they belong, that they feel like that we're trying to get to know them better? So I did my research and I landed on the Tell Them For Me survey. And it didn't take long when we started looking at the survey that we realized this would be a good fit for where we're trying to go, because it would provide us that tangible measure that is almost demanded these days to be able to analyze data and report back to your teachers, your students, your parents, your superintendent, your board, to say that we are making a difference, and not just because your gut tells you so, but because you have real data to point to. So we first used a survey in the spring of 2012, and we've been using it each spring for the last 3 years. We've purposely chosen just to do the survey once a year, so it's always fresh for our students, and I see that that works. I'm usually in the room when the students are doing the survey, and I can tell that they're engaged in the process. They don't see it as a big deal to do the survey. It takes them 15, 20 minutes, and it's not a task they dread, and I think they enjoy the fact that we're asking them for their opinion. In terms of mental health, I'll admit that when we started doing this work, as I said previously, our focus was primarily on how do we get to know students better. It wasn't because we were focused solely on their mental health. And in fact, I don't think we even talked about, well, this will improve their mental health, it'll improve our ability to help them with their mental health. It became a byproduct, unintended, but certainly very welcomed byproduct of the work we're doing. And I think it's one of the things we can point to as a success, that we have seen improvements in our students' mental health. So I'll cover 5 points that I think show how there has been a relationship between our work to get to know students better, the survey, and the mental health of our students. And the 5 are the survey itself. And I'll talk a bit about how we just use the survey as a vehicle to help with mental health. We established a grade 10 counselor position based on it. We've changed how we do our day with our breaks between classes. We've initiated an exciting, slightly innovative program called Catch-Up Days, and our very innovative and unique leadership program has done some work recently with our grade 9 girl population, specifically about mental health. So I'll start with what's most important to our school, and that's our school goal. And our school goal is very simple. They will leave us better. And we mean that to mean that every student will leave us as a better person. Not just a better student, but a better person. And of course, they can't leave us better people if we haven't worked on the non-academic issues as well as the academic issues. And somewhere in that better person, hopefully, is a mentally healthy person, as well as a physically healthy person and an academically healthy person. So there is certainly a mental health component to when they say they will leave us better. It has forced us to define success differently because we're looking at the whole person. So success in our school is slowly not just becoming, do they graduate? Do they pass their courses? Do they get accepted to university, college? Do they find a job? Those are all important, and they'll always be important. But it can't be the only measure by which we deem that we have done our job, and therefore that student will be successful. All of us who have been through high school can all think of students who did academically well or athletically well, or were, a star of the show. They had dramatic artistic expertise. But if they didn't have the people skills, if they couldn't deal with conflict, resolve problems, maintain relationships, then they were going to have a hard time being successful in life. So that's what we've been working on. So we've put forth a concerted effort to strengthen our connection to students, to get to know them better. And just by using the survey itself, I think we're sending a message to our students that we care about what they think, and we want them to feel they belong in our school. We want them to know we care about their well-being, and that we're all about fresh starts, that every day is a new day, and teachers are quite willing and able to forget whatever they may or may not have done the day before, and they're just glad they're here today, and they just want to work with them in the here and now, and not necessarily relive old mistakes or past misjudgments. And I think because of that, we've seen more students coming forward with all sorts of issues because we're making it very clear that their voice matters, our doors are open, and that's both figuratively and literally. We really try to embody and practice what we preach. And about 2 years ago, we had a new school psychiatrist assigned to our school. This person has a caseload of many schools, ours is one of them. And not knowing our school well at all, one of her first comments when she presented at a staff meeting about kind of her role and what she does, she was surprised for a school of our size how many students we had with mental health issues. And I think that it came across as a negative because it doesn't sound good. But when I thought about it more, I took it more as a positive. That to me indicates that our students are comfortable telling us what's happening in their life. They're willing to tell their teacher, their guidance counselor, an EA, an administrator, that they are struggling. And we had a couple of cases of students who were not the typical mental health issues in terms of what you think of as a type of student. These are students who are doing fantastically academically, and they would seem like they had everything going for them. But they were dealing with huge anxiety issues, depression issues, suicidal tendencies. And I think in fact, I know it's because of things like the survey, we're sending that message that we want to hear you and we will respond to you. And of course, the survey does that in many ways, but when we ask questions on the survey, like what do you like about our school, what don't you like about our school, and we respond. And sometimes it's something as small as putting more outlets in a hallway because they're bringing their devices to school. But I think it's the message that it sends. Now, speaking of messages, the first time we did the survey in 2012, the data clearly showed, amongst other things, that there was a huge disconnect from our grade 10 students. Most every graph, no matter the topic, the bar graphs show that our grade 9s, 11s, and 12s all were feeling, let's just say, better about different issues. And our grade 10s were constantly a good drop down from the grade 9s, 11s, and 12s. And once I thought about it, it really wasn't that surprising. We're not a large school. We only have so many guidance counselors available. And we had one person who had just a part-time guidance position, and they looked after grade 9s. And then our other guidance counselor had grade 10, 11s, and 12s. And given the nature of grade 11s and 12s, that individual spent most of her time helping kids transition out of high school. And of course, the grade 9 counselor spent all her time helping kids transition into high school. But what we were missing was the middle piece. It's like being the middle child. You can feel ignored. So with some creativity on my end, and with being true to our approach, that if we truly believe that getting to know students is the most important thing, then as the principal, you have to allocate your resources accordingly. Your priority should match your resources. So if it's important to you in words, then your actions need to follow through. So with some creativity, we were able to create another guidance counselor position without really taking away much from the rest of the school. So now for the last 2 years, going into this is the third year, we have a grade 9 counselor, a grade 10 counselor, and a grade 11 and 12 counselor. And again, not surprising, 2 years ago, the results showed an increase, and last year, pretty much you couldn't tell the difference between one grade or another, at least not because of not having a guidance counselor. So what this does in my mind is that this has given our grade 10s a better vehicle to have someone to talk to. And we keep the same guidance counselor through those first 2 grades. So now they've had the same guidance counselor for the first 2 years of their high school life. And it has resulted in a better connection, at the very least, with that grade 10 counselor. And I can attribute the creation of that position to the fact that the survey results were demanding that we do something. The first year, again, when we did the survey, one of our open-ended questions was, what don't you like about our school? We also said, what do you like about our school? And the students were, give them credit, for the first time doing the survey, they were trying to be very constructive in their thinking and in their ideas. So they weren't necessarily just complaining, but they were trying to solve. Many of them commented that our 5-minute breaks that we have between classes, so we have 4 classes a day, we're a semester school, 75-minute classes times 4. And we used to have an hour for lunch with 5-minute breaks in between. And so the students were saying that 5 minutes just wasn't enough. It's not because our school is big. It is a 3-story school, but you can get from one classroom to another in about 3 minutes. But it wasn't leaving them time for the other things. It could be practical things like getting to their locker, going to the bathroom. But it was also just socializing, kind of decompressing, as one of the teachers put it, that they would find that the kids would come in and they were still kind of just flying. They really hadn't kind of had a chance to calm down and decompress between one class and another. And so after talking to the teachers, we agreed that we should try a 10-minute break. Well, again, going into our 3rd year of doing those breaks, there's been a lot of intended consequences. We have hardly any lates. With about 2 minutes to go in the break, 8 minutes into the break, the hallways are just about empty. Kids are in the classes. They've been to their lockers. They've got their books. They've been to the bathroom. But from a mental health perspective, more importantly, they've had a chance to socialize. They've had a chance to put school aside, even for 2 or 3 minutes, and meet up with friends and just connect about social things, which of course for most teenagers, there can't be anything more important than their social life. So they've had a chance to see those people. And maybe if they haven't had a good class, they've been able to touch base with a friend and they talk about something different. And that experience from 5 minutes ago is gone, and now they have a new, fresh experience, and they can go into that classroom feeling better than they were 3 minutes ago. And I'm not saying that we're hoping all the time that classes are a negative experience, but let's face it, not every student loves every class they're in, at least not every day. But we're finding that break gives them a chance to kind of refresh themselves in many different ways. And then they're ready to learn when they go into class. And what the students have told us since then in surveys is that they feel better. And I think we're hearing that more and more for different reasons, is that the things we're doing are making the students feel better, which again makes me think of mental health. Feeling better has also been a kind of a good byproduct of the next project or initiative that I want to talk about. We've initiated something called catch-up days, and I'll explain more what it is in a second. But in the first 2 years of our survey results, students, especially our older students, were expressing how their lives become more and more stressful as they go through high school. Grade 9 and 10, they usually don't have part-time jobs. They're less likely to have a girlfriend, boyfriend. They may be involved in teams. That might be the extent of what's added to their life in terms of time. But as they get into grade 11 and 12, there's more time stress. It's a job, it's a relationship, it's more teams, it's more clubs. If their workload is getting harder, homework is increasing, and you put all that together and they're trying to figure out what to do once they're done high school, the stress adds up. And of course, we all see that in our older students. And they weren't exactly sure what we needed to do to help them, but they were clearly saying, we need to do something. How can we take away some stress? We still need them to do what they're supposed to do, but how can we do something to give them some time where they feel less stressed? So I had done a lot of investigation with different provinces, different systems, and we kind of stole a page out of something the province of Alberta has been working on, and they call it flex time. Well, we just called it catch-up days. So in Alberta, they do more on a regular basis, once or twice a week. They build into their daily schedule flex time, basically where kids can do what they need to do. So last spring, we tried a day in early April, and because it went so well, another day in early June, where we shorten our classes. So our schedule, instead of having 4 75-minute classes, we have a 30-minute class to start the day and a 30-minute class right before lunch. But in between there, we've carved out 45 minutes from each class, so 90 minutes in total, where students get to do what they want to do. And we mean that literally, within reason and safety limits and all that, but it's not we don't dictate their time. When that 30-minute class ends at the end of period one, the bell goes, they have an hour and a half to do what they want to do and go where they want to go. So there are no classes going on for those 90 minutes. Teachers are in their rooms, computer labs are available, libraries available, guidance people are available, special ed teachers are available, administration is available. We are there to serve the students for those 90 minutes. We do the same thing in the afternoon. Start with a 30-minute class, a 90-minute catch-up time, and then we end with a 30-minute class. So they have all four of their classes, just have them for much shorter period of time. And we were amazed, but honestly not surprised last year when we did it in early April, how well the kids use their time. I think because we've been working on student voice, student leadership, showing our students through the survey and other methods that we want to listen to them, we weren't surprised really that they respected the opportunity they were given. I think they knew that if they made good use of this first attempt, there would be more. And sure enough, there was in June. And in fact, the teachers were so impressed with it that last year we only gave them a 60-minute window, and this year we've upped it to 90. How it connects to mental health, again, very unintended. We knew it would help them, but I don't think we really knew how much it would help the mental health. Even in that very first time we did in early April, I had some senior students come up to me who weren't going to be back this year. They were in grade 12. They knew they were leaving, but they just said, you know, Mr. Friesen, this is a keeper. You have to keep doing this as often as you can, because they would say, I feel so much better today. I've got to work tonight. I have a basketball game tomorrow after school. I have a piano lesson after that. And I just didn't know when I was going to get all this work done, but I just got a whole bunch of work done today, and I feel so much better. And I had a lot of students during that day and the next couple of days come up and just give me that very unsolicited feedback. I purposely went into classes the next day after we did it the first time, and I went in about 8 classes. And as soon as I mentioned I was there to talk about catch-up day, the kids just lit up. They were so happy with it. And I said, okay, I get that you like it, but you got to tell me why you like it. And they liked it for all the right reasons. They liked it because they appreciated that we were respecting them, that we were giving them an opportunity to be adults about their education, to take ownership of their education, that they could do what they wanted to do. But there was so many comments about how they felt better, they felt less stressed, and they really wanted to happen more. So this year we're doing it 3 times each semester. It's not that we couldn't do more, but we're trying to do it slowly, make sure we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. It was a great initiative to start with, and we're hoping that this year it'll continue to be a great idea. The last facet of our mental health work that connects to our survey is our leadership program and our grade 9 mental health workshops. There's no doubt that the 3 years we've done the survey, the data that talks about anxiety is troublesome, and I'm sure it's the same in every school. But in particular, our survey showed that our grade 9 girls were probably the hardest hit population in terms of how they felt about themselves, self-image, self-esteem, and anxiety. We're fortunate here to have a very innovative, very forward-thinking leadership program where we base the program on we need to teach leadership skills first. You just can't assume that students come naturally by leadership skills. There are people who are natural leaders, but leadership can be taught. I don't believe leaders are made 100%. Leadership can be taught. And I myself, as someone who I was not a leader in high school, but I think I've learned the skills over the years to be able to do my job as principal. So I think I know that leadership can be taught. So within that program, we really want students to take on leadership projects that matter to them. We want them to be passionate about it. So we don't tell them that we need them to organize a dance. They decide what they want to do. So we had a group of 1 grade 10 girl, 3 grade 11 girls who were very committed to mental health because 3 of the 4 had themselves in grade 9 had difficulty with their own mental health, anxiety, depression, and even suicidal tendencies. So they approached their 2 leadership teachers about they wanted to do workshops with grade 9 girls because I'd shared the data with the school and they were curious and they were troubled by the data just like we were. So their teachers worked with them. Again, they did not work with these grade 9 girls from the viewpoint of being an expert. They simply were peers that were willing to listen and wanted to hear what was going on in the life of a grade 9 girl. So that's what they did. They met with small groups of girls, about 6 or 7. They did about 10 groups because we had about 60 grade 9 girls last year. And they met with them about every 2 weeks. And they did that for most of the year. And Again, they didn't try to become the mental health expert. They didn't try to be the practitioner. They simply listened, and they passed on to their teachers, and they passed on to the guidance folks, and they passed on to us as a staff. That the stuff they heard was hard to hear sometimes, but again, from our perspective, we're glad that the girls are talking about it, and our grade 9 girls had the chance to share and to feel that they weren't the only one feeling that way, which is sometimes where students with mental health issues can make some unfortunate choices where they feel they're alone. And if we accomplish nothing else, we now have a group of grade 10 girls who know that they're not alone, that they know that there are other people struggling. And one of the girls out of our leadership program last year, she's going to do a follow-up with those grade 10 girls this year to see kind of how they're doing, and are they doing better, and did their conversations have any impact. So that's the last of the components of what we've been doing at WCI that I think shows a connection between using the Tell Them For Me survey and how it's had an impact on our mental health. For those out there that have used the survey or are going to use the survey or thinking about doing it, the one thing I can honestly say is that I had no idea how it would help us in areas that I didn't think about initially, and I can certainly say mental health was one of them. As I said, we used the survey because we wanted a tangible measure to see how we were doing with getting to know students better. But it has spun into many other areas, including, and certainly very importantly, mental health. And I think we have a healthier school because of what we're trying to do. And the surveys played an important role to give us that annual measure and a reason to go deeper and a reason to dive further into some areas that I don't think we would have had a good handle on if we hadn't been using the survey. So thank you for listening. I hope you found this information to be helpful, and enjoy the rest of the webinar.